tell me, Desh, because you guys taking on these issues so head on has not been all that well received by, for example, the big tech world, which I understand has given you some trouble about trying to advertise the film.
Yeah, this has been unusually challenging. With another independent film under my belt, I had a pretty good idea how to get the film out using the digital channels available, but we could not get a single ad running. We couldn't even pay to get this film in front of people. Facebook prevented, basically locked every single account that tried to run an ad. So we couldn't put a single ad. Google stopped all of our ads, and they labeled our ads hateful, and range of other strange titles, reasons. Twitter didn't let our ads run. YouTube eventually let a teaser run, but again, the reach was very minimal, and our organic posts were, you could clearly see the algorithm is doing something to minimize the reach. We were extremely lucky because the likes of Jordan Peterson, Steven Pinkers actually liked the movie and they amplified. But it has been incredibly challenging to get the movie out because every usual avenue. I actually want to reveal something I haven't really publicly acknowledged. The PR firm we had for this film, the same PR firm that helped us get Islam and the Future of Tolerance to a large audience, said yes to the film because the two founders loved it. And then uh, we pretty much signed agreements and everything. And just before we were ready to go out, I get an email saying, "Hey, the team has seen the movie and they're very uncomfortable by the subject matter and everything you're talking about. We are pulling out."
Oh, no.
So that was a huge blow for us because we had, big reliance on those guys because they, they're pretty big agency. And I called them and I said, "Hey, I thought you two loved the movie," and they said, "We still stand by our statement. It's just our team feels otherwise."
This is so crazy. So did you wind up getting anybody to help you with PR?
No, we, I spoke to so many agencies. The initial call is always warm and nice, and we eventually send them a copy to watch, and then we get ghosted. Like, even if they like the film, we are in an environment that you don't want to publicly acknowledge. I have a famous journalist, scientists who absolutely love the movie, who would personally message me and say, "Mate, love the movie, but please don't tell anyone that I told you that." We actually released a number of those comments with anonymizing their names because it's crazy the sheer number of people that have personally messaged us, famous comedians, etc., but wouldn't say it publicly.
Yeah, no, we've seen this. I was just talking about this. You are not allowed to have certain opinions right now. And unless we start fighting back against that and expressing our unpopular, quote unquote, unpopular opinions, we're all going to be silenced. And what you find when you speak out with your quote unquote unpopular opinion is that it's not as unpopular as you think. Millions of people share your views, but they don't have the liberty to express them. They fear getting fired. They fear getting ostracized. We just interviewed a guy last week who was talking about life in Cuba and how if you say something against the government there, you could find out that your apartment lease is no longer in effect, right? You no longer have a place to live. It's not quite that extreme here, but we're going down that path. I mean, people are losing their livelihoods for quote wrong think. So that's why the film is so important. That I don't understand, and it actually isn't controversial at all. I mean, it really isn't. It doesn't take issue with the left. It takes issue with the extreme left and the extreme right.
Right. Yeah,
And
more
that's the
people should
irony of
stand
the
up.
whole situation, isn't it? The irony of the situation is that people judge the movie by the people who are involved, and they make assumptions, and by a trailer. If you really watch it, if you go through the painstaking detail we've gone through here to explain what we're talking about, it's you can have a philosophical argument of your disliking or disagreement, but that's the point. We're not trying to tell people that you have to agree with what we are saying. We're simply presenting a certain set of philosophical and intellectual arguments that we haven't seen, and that involves the political far left. And that's an unusual thing. And we're realizing the way people are pushing back is the exact point we are making. Hey, somehow we've come to a place that you can't talk about it. Just similar to what you said, Megyn, about in Cuba. In Sri Lanka, when I was growing up in Sri Lanka, it was one of the worst places for a journalist. We used to have the white van syndrome. A journalist would say something, or a person would say something, and literally 2 days later, a van will arrive, and that was the last we've seen or heard of that person.